Welcome back, everybody, to the Career Invincibility Show. I'm Christine Parakis, your host today, and I cannot tell you how excited I am about our guest. You know, sometimes you just come across those superstars and you're lucky enough to connect with them in a personal way, and I get to bring her to you today. Natasha Zuvela has represented billion-dollar brands like Virgin Money, MTV, Bonds, quadruple X Gold, and most recently Citi Bank on national television. She's had the number one rated MTV show for 3 years running that's broadcast in Australia and Europe and to over 60 million viewers, and has personally been recruited to take over for Steve Irwin's hosting of the live Crocoseum shows. Natasha has held 5,000 people in her thrall while being locked inside a crocodile enclosure with 500 kilograms of saltwater crocodiles and 20 snakes. I can't even imagine crawling at her feet while she's performing her role. It's extraordinary. But now she is combining her extensive experience with billion-dollar brands and her love for empowering others and really making a difference. And her exclusive video mastery training programs are helping countless people get their messages out to a global audience. To look at her, you would think, she's a pro. I could never be that. But somehow Natasha makes it sound possible. So welcome, Natasha. Please introduce us to you.
Thank you, Christine. That was a very beautiful introduction. It's been a pretty amazing journey over my 20 plus year career in the media industry. And I'd have to say probably one of my most proudest moments was to take over the late, great Crocodile Hunter's role. And I think looking back on my career, that would have to be by far one of my greatest challenges, having to overcome a 25-year phobia of snakes to then handle about 20 boas and pythons for a living every day for about 3 years.
Talk about immersion, right?
Yeah.
Where did you get the fortitude to be able to do that?
Look, I think, Christine, if I look back at my entire life, I think as a young child, having to overcome many challenges and adversities, and really sort of, I think I've always had an innate drive to and do better or be more or achieve great things. And I think, to be honest, it started, I think from the time I was born, I almost didn't make it with my umbilical cord being wrapped around my neck a few times. And so I think from day one, I kind of had to, that drive and determination and sheer resilience just kind of started from the first day I was born. And I think from there, I just had a love for achievement, sport, and then obviously moving into the entertainment industry. I think I just had that innate determination and drive from day one. I think I have my mum and my dad to thank for that.
Well, I'm sure that you had a lot of support in that, but it's the fact of what we love to talk about here on this show is people who are successful do not get there in a straight line. And one of the things that happens, right? Everybody sees you and you're magnificent and they see your work and the work that you put out in the world and think, well, great for her, but that couldn't happen to me. Right? Yeah. We don't recognize the humanity of people who are as successful as you are. And so, I think it's really useful for all of us to understand what are some of the hurdles we've overcome and what has contributed to your becoming invincible as you are. Because I don't believe it was a straight line, right?
Oh, gosh, no. Look, if I put it in context is, I think this is what a lot of people don't realize, and this is why I wrote my book, The Courage to Shine, is how to create an extraordinary life and have the courage to overcome your fears. And the purpose of that book was to explain to people, yes, certainly that straight line has never been the case in my life. And if I just give a brief overview, I've overcome depression, suicide, abuse, a whole bunch of things as a young child and into my early, sort of late teens, early 20s. And I had to really work through that. And it wasn't until sort of coming up to my mid-20s where I really broke through a lot of that destructive behaviour, a lot of those belief systems, a lot of those patterns, albeit I still found a way to achieve success. But to be honest, deep down, it was a huge struggle for me to just show up every day. And a lot of people don't know that because I was on TV and have been on TV, and they only see the end picture of, oh, there's that TV presenter, she's on, her life must be perfect. Well, that was, couldn't be further from the truth. So I think looking back at that, I think those challenges, they can either make or break you. And I think I got to a point where I was fortunate enough to, to get the right help, the right coaches, the mentors. But to be honest, I had to want to change, and I had to have the willingness to change. And I think that was the core essence of why I have achieved the success, because at the end of the day, it was really up to me to want to do that. No one else could do it for me. Even though I had a challenging past, I had to work through that pain. I had to work through the uncomfortableness of, having to look at, okay, what am I doing right now in my life? It's not really serving me, nor is it serving anyone else around me. But at the end of the day, it was up to me to do something about that, and no one could do that for me. I think when I understood that and I accepted that, that's when my life really turned around, and I was able to then, move into the personal development and coaching space and go into that wanting to give back to other people and share my 20 years of media experience and help business owners. But I couldn't do that, 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 15 years ago. I didn't even have that capacity to serve others. But I think the defining moment for me was, okay, is acceptance and realizing this is up to me. No one else can do it for me.
Oh, absolutely. And there's two things that occur to me as I'm hearing your story, and that one is we don't get there alone, right?
No.
Even though you had to make the decision and it was going to count on your commitment, you knew to bring your tribe around you, right? The people that you could trust and count on.
And then, and to be honest, it wasn't many people. So it was like I could count them on like 2 people,
sure.
2 or 3 people. That was it.
But that's all it takes, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Even one person who gives us that sense of you're not in this alone, right? I'm not going to lose. I'm not going to let go. I'm going to be here.
Absolutely.
I think that's, go ahead, please.
I was going to say that's, I think for exactly, this is the thing is like, I think especially in today's social media world, we almost feel like we have to, or we've got to have it all together, especially with the images that people put out there on social media. But the fact is that you really do need, someone who's walked that journey before you, whether it's a coach, a mentor. There's no point reinventing the wheel. So go learn from someone who's walked your path, and just, go hire them and get their help, because they've walked that journey. So why not, leverage their knowledge and experience and tools and wisdom, and get them to help you through whatever it is you need to get through to get to the next level. And that's been, my strategy, whether it's for TV presenting and mentors in business, and in sport, coming from a sporting background, having won 2 Australian aerobics championships in my teenage years. I always got the best mentor or someone who's achieved that success, and then I've learned from them and got them to coach me.
Well, and it's the ability to ask for help, which is the other piece that occurs to me, right? As I write about this in my book, and The Resilient Leader.
Yes.
And it's that, we think we have to have it all together. We're rewarded for being independent and tough-minded and being able to go it alone. But the fact is, we have to figure this out. And when we need it the most, having the ability to pick up the phone, it can weigh a ton.
Yes.
And so, excuse me. So what we have to be is to figure out that we're in enough pain that we can't take it anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the moment, right?
And that's unfortunately the sad thing is, like, why do we have to get to that point of where it's so painful that only then will we change, And and this is what I talk about with people with video, or even in my past coaching of life coaching people, is, you don't have to hit rock bottom to make those changes, but sometimes it takes that, sometimes it takes having to go, okay, you know what, I need to get help. I need some support here. I need to reach out. And I think, I think social media has a lot to play with, having to have this perfect life or projection on social media that everything's perfect. And the reality is no one's life is perfect. It's just, we're all going through something, and it's about just going, having the courage to ask for help and being okay to share your story, because I think when people are honest about their story, and it took me a very long time to even admit that I had struggles and that I wasn't perfect, and because I was trained to be perfect. That was my job. I had to look and be and sound perfect because that's what, these companies were paying me to do. But in reality, that wasn't the case. And I really had to overcome my idea of perfectionism to go, you know what, it's not about that. It's about being real and honest and, helping people. But don't tell them that your life's been perfect, because that's not true.
Right. Well, and that's what I'm all about, is that I had to find myself in the rubble
Yes.
alone, making the worst decision of my life to
Yeah.
really get that, hey, wait a minute, what were you thinking? You
Yeah.
know, and I didn't know anybody else who had done that and
No,
or made that choice. And I had a choice. And
that's right.
most of the time we do. So, what would you say to somebody who just feels like, no, Natasha, she's got it. She's always had it. This is natural to her. It's not natural to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, at the end of the day, it's like, well, why do you want to do anything? And it comes back to, well, what's your reason and purpose for anything in life? And we can all sit here and look at other people and go, well, it's okay for them. They're way ahead of us. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where other people are at. What matters is, why do you want to do anything in your life? And if you don't actually get to the core of your purpose or your reasoning for doing anything, well, then nothing will ever change. And there's not enough motivation or drive for anything in your life unless you have a strong enough why. And for me, one of my core reasons for succeeding in my career in television and in my video mastery business is I had a strong reason to do that. I had a love for entertainment industry. I had a love for, I really wanted to. I was I'm dyslexic. I couldn't read out loud in high school. I could barely speak in public. I tripped over my words all the time and was humiliated in high school. And I could have just said, you know what, this is not for me. Speaking in public is not a career I should be entertaining, pardon the pun. But I decided that, well, why couldn't I do that? I really wanted to, and I really wanted to be in that industry. I had a love for it. So I didn't let my dyslexia or lack of speaking skills stop me from doing that, because I had a reason for doing that. I had a purpose. So I just then, did whatever it took, got coaching, I just practiced. And when I first started at MTV many years ago, I almost got fired because the ratings on the show were plummeting when I first started, because that was my first TV presenting gig ever. And that was my first role, but I wasn't very good when I first started. In fact, my producer called me into the show after the show and said, Natasha, we really need to talk. Your ratings are dropping. You're not engaging enough on camera. You're not getting people's attention. And from that point, I went, well, okay, so do I just do nothing, or do I, make sure that I succeed at this? So then I ended up hiring a coach. I think they were back then, 20 years ago, $400 an hour.
Wow.
To me, I was like 21. That was like $2,000 now. And I just got mentoring and coaching by one of Australia's top actors in the movie industry here, and worked with him for maybe 3 or 4 sessions. And then I religiously practiced for 3 hours a day, speaking and reading my MTV scripts every day for 3 hours, because it wasn't my natural skill set. So I think at the end of the day, it's like, well, if people are sitting here going, oh, it's okay for you, Natasha, or it's okay for you, Christine, you've achieved great success. But at the end of the day, why do you want that? Why do you even want to do anything is what I would ask anybody. And if you can get clear on that, and you can connect anything in your life, whether it be relationship, business, your family, your kids' relationship, then you'll have the motivation and drive to actually follow through. And it's not about comparing yourself to anyone, but it's about why you want anything in life, and how is that going to serve you and your family if you actually do something about it.
Well, and that's the thing, right?